I applied for scholarships like it was a full-time job. And that's why I was so successful winning them, because I took it very, very seriously.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a guest, Michelle.
Hi.
And today we're going to be discussing how to get scholarship for undergraduate studies. Full ride scholarship, but also like partial funding. And Michelle is going to be speaking on that. I know on this channel we talk more about graduate school in the United States, and that's because I'm a grad student here in the United States. But Michelle is a citizen of the US, so she went to undergrad here and now she's a grad student and she can speak to like getting funding for your undergrad. So she's going to be educating us on that. But I also want to say that there will be another video on that channel because she's also a YouTuber where she will be talking to me about life as an international grad student in the United States. So when you're done watching this video, please click on the link in the description and the comment section to go to our channel and also watch that video, and please subscribe. So welcome to the channel, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Yeah, so can we start off by you just introducing yourself?
So my name's Michelle Hubbard. I'm currently a graduate student at the University of Michigan studying chemical engineering. I got my bachelor's at the University of New Mexico, also in chemical engineering.
Can you tell us share your story, your scholarship story, like from high school to undergrad, and how did that go?
When I was in high school, I knew that I didn't want to have a lot of student loans. I heard nightmares about that. And so at the beginning of senior year, I started looking for scholarships like it was a full-time job. So I would go to the counselor's office. I would look in my community at small businesses that would have scholarships. And anytime I found something that I was remotely qualified to get, I would apply to it. I applied for a lot of scholarships that were offered in my community. So in my counselor's office, they gave us a list, and it was all the scholarships that people in the community, like just maybe small businesses or even just people that were just wanted to help fund.
Okay.
And so lots of little scholarships, $500, $1,500. I applied for scholarships that were actually offered by my high school.
Okay.
I applied for scholarships that were offered by my elementary school. One of the largest scholarships that I won was $6,000 a year, and that was the Sachs Foundation in Colorado Springs, and that's supposed to help Black students actually attend school at a lower cost.
Okay.
I won about maybe $12,000 prior to coming into undergrad, but then when I was in undergrad, I didn't stop applying. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they think that you can only apply for scholarships before you get into college. But once I actually got into college, I started to actually apply for other things that were more pertinent to my degree. So before, in high school, it was more about just being qualified. I'm going to school, so just people who were just wanting to fund college students. But once I got into college, it was now helping STEM students, so people who were in engineering or science, technology, and math. And so I would do scholarships that would help minorities, scholarships that would help minorities in STEM. I would also choose funding that would help with research, and that was I won a lot of money doing that as well. So I applied a lot of scholarships in high school, but then I didn't stop applying once I actually got into college.
So what were like the components of this application? Did they need your GPA? Did they need specific essays? And like, how did you prepare for like these different components?
So most of the scholarships I applied for had about the same requirements. So they would require your transcript, an ACT or SAT score, and a couple letters of recommendation. And so just getting all of those components together, getting the transcript, obviously just going to the counselor's office, taking the ACT early, which I think is also really important so that you have those scores ready to go. And then I think the letters of recommendation, that was a really important component as well. And so I would just talk to people and say, hey, I think you would be a really good person to talk about my character for this specific scholarship. So I didn't just use like general letters of recommendation. I would talk to specific teachers or people in my community to help with these specific scholarships. So
Okay.
there was one scholarship for students who were children of veterans. So I talked to people in my community that knew about what it was like for me being a child of a veteran. And so I would say, hey, can you talk about these specific things in this letter? And they'd say, oh, yes, of course I could do that. And in terms of the essay, the prompts were usually the same. And I think that when you want to build a really compelling argument in an essay, you have to have a good story. You want to make it personable, because a lot of these scholarships committees, they're not going to meet you. You need to make yourself, you give your personality in that essay and say, I am a person, I'm a likable person, and I'm a person worth funding. Your scholarship is going to be used successfully to help me achieve my goals.
Awesome. So you talked about essays, the recommendation letter. You also said the GPA was important, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about like exams, like the SATs? Did you had to write that? Like, did you have to write that for the scholarship, or that was just for like actually entering into uni?
I think that was more applicable for actually entering into university. So I can't remember any scholarships specifically asking for my score.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but like for the scholarship, how good was your GPA supposed to be in order to get scholarships like that? And did you have to have like extra things like extracurricular activities in order to be competitive?
I was very fortunate. I actually graduated first of my class, so I had a very high GPA. I would say most of the requirements for the scholarships were about a 3.0, so I was, way above that.
So, but what about extracurricular activities? Do you think it was important? Like, I think that will come in your essay. Like, did you have to write in your essay about your like academic activities, but also like what you do for extracurricular?
I think that there's this misconception that you have to be just this jack of all trades and really involved in a lot of things. And if I were to go back and talk to myself, it's like, yes, you want to do extracurriculars, but you want to do ones that are pertinent to what you want to do. So for example, I was in National Honor Society, Music Honor Society. I was in clubs, but none of them really had anything to do with engineering. So I couldn't really talk about how my extracurriculars were going to help me as an engineer unless it was more of like, I work well in a team, or, I think critically.
Yeah.
So if you want to do extracurriculars and be able to talk about them, they should be pertinent to what you want to do. So if I were to go back and tell myself, I'd say, hey, Michelle, try to do something engineering related. Go volunteer in an engineering firm. Go try to do research at a university, which is available to high school students. Not something I really found out. That's something I found out afterwards when I got into college. And I was like, wow, I could have done this years ago and got my foot in the door a lot earlier than I did.
And there's this stuff they do. I've forgotten the name right now, but I know like high school students come to the university, like to the engineering departments, and do you know what I'm talking about?
Like research exchange program?
No, that's REU. That's for undergrads.
Oh, yes.
But like there's the one, is it the fair? Engineering fair, where they get to like do different fun experiments.
Oh, yeah. So
you know what I'm talking about? And
yeah, they're just like
yeah, I've forgotten the name. If we remember the name, we'll put it on the screen. Yeah, but like I think that's also like a good activity to be involved in, because if you're coming for engineering, for example, like in your essay, you should write like why you're interested in engineering, right? So being involved in such activities can like help in your essay. That's what I think. Don't you think so?
Yes. And I would say that is applicable to any discipline.
Yes.
So for example, if you want to be an English major or you want to write, then do some competitions where you write, or take extra classes on, like, do things that are pertinent to exactly what you want to do so that you can actually speak to that. If you're an artist, try to do some of those challenges, try to enter those competitions, and you can be able to talk about that. So this is very applicable to any degree.
Yes, definitely, not just engineering. And I think this even goes way beyond, like, this is not just for high school students, even for like undergrad that's trying to enter into grad school. When you're trying to say you're interested in a particular field and all, it's good to show that you've done something, even if it's like a volunteer experience, to show that, oh, you're interested in this and you took the step to volunteer like with this organization or with this club. and that even like sparked your interest more. That just helps like solidify your story at the end of the day to show that you're actually interested in that field, and that can help in scholarship and even admissions. I know. But I wanted to ask a question. Like, I see a lot of full ride scholarship, because I didn't like live in the United States, and like I didn't go to undergrad here. I really don't understand what that entails. What's a full ride scholarship?
Yeah, so usually if your GPA and all of your scores are really good, the university that you attend will also give you a scholarship. So for me, one of the scholarships I was able to receive was called the Colorado Reciprocal Program. So for that meant that any person who came from Colorado that attended the University of New Mexico actually got in-state tuition. And so they just charge you whatever in-state tuition is, or they just gave me that scholarship money and it was just taken right out of my account. But when people say full ride, I'm going to assume they mean their university is paying for everything. So, and that just means that they've met all of these requirements, probably a high GPA, high SAT, ACT scores, really compelling essays and letters of recommendation and whatnot. And so whenever they get the bill at the beginning of the semester, which it comes at the beginning of the semester, the school would just automatically apply those scholarships and your balance should be zero. And so that to me is what a full ride scholarship.
I'm glad you mentioned like SAT again in like getting admission. So do everybody write SAT?
So back then, about 10 years ago, it was a requirement that everybody take the SAT or the ACT. So I took the ACT.
Oh, okay.
So I got an okay score, nothing great. So it didn't necessarily help me get that full ride scholarship from the University of New Mexico. In fact, that's one of the things I kind of like regret, is I would have gotten probably so much more money had my SAT or my ACT score been a lot higher, because I had such a high overachieving, or not overachieving, but a
like
very
GPA.
high GPA.
Yeah. So, but how did you go about preparing for your SATs?
Well, the first go around, I took it 3 times. Full transparency, took that test 3 times. The first time I took it, I didn't really study that much. The only studying that happened was actually offered through my high school. So I actually had a teacher who would do ACT practice problems with us during class.
Okay. Was that in your last grade or?
I think it was junior year actually, because you want to take that test and have the score in time to apply to college.
Okay.
So all of that testing or all of that practice would have happened prior to senior year. So I took the test, didn't get a very good score. So I took it again. And so there's studies that show the more times you take these tests, the better your scores will be. And so every time I took it, my score did get better. And then finally, the last time, my mom and I talked about it and I was like, Mom, I'm not good at this test. I can't study on myself. So she actually helped me get a tutor, which I'm very blessed to have that opportunity. So I would say if you have the means, please get a tutor. The SAT and ACT don't test your intelligence, they test your ability to know how to take a test. And there are many tips and tricks to getting a high SAT and ACT score. And I would also say that I know a lot of universities are making these tests optional, but I do still think that they are very important to get scholarships. So even if you don't think you need it for admissions, I think you should take those tests and try to get the best scores possible so that you get the most scholarship money.
So do you think like the scholarships you pursued, are they open to both international, like both local and international students?
So in high school, I don't think that there was any requirements for being U.S. citizen or international students. So if you're coming for undergraduate, and maybe some of those scholarships would be applicable, but most of the scholarships that I applied to when I was actually in college were dependent on you being a United States citizen, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah.
So I applied to a lot of scholarships for like National Science Foundation, like Alliance for Minority Participation. So all of those are kind of funded through NSF.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that there's not scholarships for international students. What I would say is just go and talk to people in, your program coordinator and tell them, hey, I'm looking for scholarships and I know that they're going to have options for you.
Yeah, sure. First year I wrote the SATs.
Okay.
I think I wrote it twice. back from my own country, Nigeria. Because I was planning to come here for undergrad, but honestly, I don't know what happened. Like, I didn't come. So I really didn't know like the details. Like, I knew if you could get a perfect score, you could get a scholarship. But anyways, I think the perfect score was like 2,400, right?
For the SAT.
For the SAT, and
Yeah.
I think I got like 1,800 or something.
That's
Like
pretty
that.
good.
Yeah, but I didn't come like.
Oh shoot.
I think they didn't just want me to come, like my mommy. Should come.
School.
Yeah. Yeah, but like what I'm saying is that like for international students, like if you want to come here for undergrad, I think you should take the SAT and you should prepare well for the SAT. If you get a high enough score, I think you can find schools that will give partial scholarship or maybe even full. Like she said, the scholarship she was applying for was really federal scholarships, which is like tied to citizenship. But I think like if you go like try to get scholarship from the school itself, if you can have a complete package that's a good SAT, good GPA, and have a wonderful essay, I think you can find something from the school. I think it's kind of similar with grad school, but the difference is that grad school gives you like assistantship, so you work. But I think for undergrad, if you can get like your SAT good, your essays good and all, and you search properly for schools, then you might be able to like get funding from the school. And like she said, it's nice to have a tutor you for these exams. But I also say, like, since I know undergrad students are really young, you need also like a guide for even the application process. So for example, in my home country, Nigeria, for United States, I would suggest that you go to like an organization called Education USA. It's like in the United States Embassy, and like there is an organization there helping like students that want to go to the United States. So they have like the right information about funding and all. And you want your child to come to the United States, I suggest that you take your child there for them to like make sure like everything is proper or right. Like you get. I think that type of organization is available like in multiple countries. So yeah, so that's like my little advice from what I know as being an international student. Like yeah, although I didn't come here for undergrad, but at least I did the exam. I know you were applying for so many scholarship and all, but like were you getting rejected?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. I think that I maybe won maybe 30% of the scholarships I applied to, and I think that's even a better statistic than most people. But I would say the more I applied, the more I started winning them. So that's because I could refine that scholarship or that essay. Not the scholarship, I could refine the essay.
Yeah.
And so the other part of that is if you write enough essays for lots of different prompts, then at some point you don't really have to write anything. You can kind of just mix and match, or even sometimes I would just change the name of, at the end I'd say, thank you to so-and-so organization for this. I just have a draft and I would just highlight, here are the 2 things you need to change in this essay. And so at some point I didn't even have to type anything. It was just copy and paste, change a couple words, and that increased the velocity of the scholarships I was applying to. So the earlier you start and the more scholarships you apply to, the easier it's going to be to start winning more scholarships.
Okay, so I guess the way you responded to rejections was persistence.
Yes. You can't, you never know what qualifies or disqualifies you for a scholarship. So you can't say like, oh, I didn't have a good GPA, or oh, my GPA is going to help me get that scholarship, because how naive would it have been for me to assume, oh, I'm going to get every scholarship I apply to because my GPA is high.
Yeah.
GPA doesn't really, it's not necessarily a metric of success. There's other things that definitely define your character. And so, extracurriculars, being able to write well, all of those things are really important. And I'd like to tell, a small story here is I know somebody who won a scholarship that was meant for women trying to become resident assistants, like or people who kind of like RAs, so they watch over the dorm rooms, and so it was meant for women, but no women applied, and so he applied for it and actually got it.
I see.
Yeah. And so it's because the other thing is people want to give away money, so even if
Sure.
you think you aren't necessarily qualified 100% for a scholarship, you should apply anyway.
Exactly.
Because I know so many stories of people who say, yeah, we only had one applicant this year, so that person got it.
Sure.
So apply for anything. I would say if you're 60% qualified for a scholarship, you should probably still apply.
Yeah. So yeah, what advice would you give to students starting their scholarship journey right now?
I would say start early. That's my only regret with scholarships is I felt like I started early, starting my
So
senior
how
year.
early though?
I would say like 9th grade.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are scholarships that will, hold that money for you to help fund your college studies. And so start early. I would say if you should be looking at least once a month for a scholarship that you can apply to. If you're serious, you should be looking once a month and at least applying to one scholarship once per month. I tell people all the time, like I applied for scholarships like it was a full-time job. And that's why I was so successful winning them, because I took it very, very serious.
Sure.
When I hear people say, oh, I'm not winning scholarships, my next question is, how many did you apply for and how often? And then they're just kind of like, I'm actually not really applying. And it's like, that's why you're not winning them, So start early, apply to them often, and keep looking all the time. And remember, don't just stop in high school. Keep that same energy in college. And even in graduate school, there are still scholarships for graduate students.
Sure.
I have won scholarships in graduate school. So I've been applying and using this technique for the past 10 years. So
Wow.
keep going.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you tell them what you do on your YouTube so that they subscribe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So on my channel, I'm trying to help students graduate debt-free from college. And so my channel, I'm going to be going over tips and tricks on, winning scholarships, lowering the cost of living, making sure that you're attending schools that actually are within your budget, and reminding people that prestige doesn't necessarily isn't going to make you successful. So it's just tips and tricks on matriculating through college and trying to find as many ways as possible to lower the cost.
Thank you very much for coming on my channel. And yeah, remember to go to our channel to watch our other video where she'll be talking to me and I'll be answering some questions. Click on the subscribe button. Share this to whoever you think will gain from it. Share to parents, share to your junior one still in high school trying to cross over to college. And yeah, see you guys on my next video. Bye.